Hello, partiers, and welcome back to Party Pastime. It has been quite a long time since Pat and I have done this show. Hi, Pat. Welcome back.
Hi. Some people say it's been too long. I don't know who they are, but they say it's been too long. And I was like, you know what? I agree. Thomas gave me a call, and he was like, we should do this again. And I was like, okay. If you were expecting something much longer and more winding than that, but I mean, the actual reason is we've just been busy.
We've been busy. We got full-time jobs now. I moved. I live a little farther from Pat now. Pat, what's been going on with you, man?
I be working a lot. That's about it. My 4 moods, as I posted on Instagram yesterday, are drinking coffee, eating food, gaming, and sleeping. Not included is all the stuff I've been doing at work, and I don't know. I've just been busy. Been trying to keep myself busy, preoccupied. I get antsy when I have like nothing to do, so I'm always trying to be preoccupied with something creative or otherwise. I recently decided, I don't know if anybody's listening. I'm sure you've heard of like Letterboxd or whatever. There's a video game equivalent to Letterboxd now called Backlogged, where it's a way to keep track of your game collection, whether you've played them or not, how much you played them, and like post reviews. I'm really passionate about gaming, obviously, and I like talking about them and writing about them. So I finally decided to actually keep up with my backlog page, and I'm slowly but surely going to be writing and posting reviews of everything that I've played so far this year.
I think we came back at the right time, Pat, because D23 just happened. So later on in the show, we're definitely going to talk about a lot of like announcements that have happened with Disney and their theme park announcements. A lot of their movies and shows that they announced.
Right.
This is a whole return with a Disney special on the side. Now we're just recording off of Discord. I do have plans on wanting to go back to doing it in person. Not really sure how we're going to do that, so we're just going to work with what we've got for however long we decide to do this. If we decide just to do it every once in a while, or if we decide to go back weekly, we're just going to see where we're going to go with this show.
And you'll get to find out with us, dear listener.
Dear listener. It's so weird that you're still here, listener. You know what's funny? I remember I shared this to you, Pat, like a couple of years ago. This was around the time when Doug Walker had his interview with Double Toasted. One guy messaged us in the Party Pastime Facebook page and gave us the link to that and just said, "Hey, I thought you might be interested in that." And I was like, "Wow, we actually have some stranger out there listening to us."
That's crazy.
That's crazy. And what's funny is that we weren't even doing anything for Party Pastime at this time. So the fact that they even messaged us, we haven't done a show in a little over a year and a half, was honestly bizarre to me.
It's like we have a Facebook page, but we literally don't update it at all.
All right, well, enough banter. Welcome back to the party, everybody. Let's dive into D23, Pat.
D23, the Disney whatever 23 stands for. This is like E3 for Disney freaks.
Mm-hmm.
Disney discusses their movie plans, their theme park plans, their streaming services, all that kind of stuff. If you are invested in Disney, this is the event for you.
When we were still doing the show back at the HCC days, I'm sure you remember the episode when we talked about James Cameron and all the Avatar movies that he announced.
Yeah, all the ones he wanted to make, even though 2 wasn't even out at the time. Yeah, I remember.
So Avatar 3 has a new title. Avatar: Fire and Ash.
Right. I remember him So I know it was originally called the Seed
The
Bearer,
Seed Bearer, yes.
but I know like right after Avatar 2 came out, I remember he was talking about how like, yeah, Avatar 3 is going to be about them like discovering like the fire Na'vi. And I'm like, this really is just Avatar the Last Airbender. But I mean, it sure, why not? I liked Avatar 2 quite a bit. I liked it more than the first one actually.
Oh,
I don't know,
I enjoy the hell out of it. I was
I,
pleasantly surprised.
I don't know if that's a hot take or not. Like I know like public perception of the first Avatar movie is pretty mellow these days.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I like the second one more than the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, if he wants to show us the fire Navi and then the air Navi and the earth Navi, and yeah, sure, why
I
not?
remember a while ago when it was originally titled The Seed Bearer, our theories were that they just found a seed from that big tree that blew up in the first movie. So if they decide to still do that while still being called Fire and Ash, I can still see it work out.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be out in 2045.
2045. December 19th, 2025 is the release date for Avatar Fire and
Yeah,
Ash.
yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Pat, have you seen Inside Out 2 yet? I haven't seen it. I can't really get my thoughts on it, but have you seen the new Inside Out movie?
Yeah, I did. I went and saw it with my family, like the weekend it came out.
How was it?
Really good. I liked it a lot.
Okay.
I don't know if I like it as much or more than the first one, but yeah, it's funny. It's got a lot of charm. It definitely has I think some of the better jokes of like recent Pixar movies. And like I was a teenager once. Like I experienced anxiety. I experienced and still experience anxiety. So actually a very like heartfelt and pretty relatable movie. I will say I know it's kind of a joke at this point, like somewhat of a meme amongst like Twitter and stuff to like a movie having a quote unquote realistic depiction of a panic attack after the Spider-Verse short film
Mm-hmm.
about it came out, but unironically, I think Inside Out 2 probably has the most accurate depiction of a panic/anxiety attack I've ever seen in a movie, and
Ooh.
I
Okay.
actually really appreciate that they um I guess decided to portray that in a movie that is ultimately for families because I think that's an important thing to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, yeah, I liked it a lot.
How do you feel about them making a TV show based on the Dream Productions, which is essentially like the movie productions in like people's heads in this universe? If you remember that from the
Sure.
first movie.
Yeah, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, why not? I feel like people are always like, "Oh, can't they make new ideas? This feels creatively bankrupt." It's like it's never bothered me
Mm-hmm.
really that they take their existing IPs and they expand them so much. I know people talk about like diluting the brand or whatever, but as long as they have like interesting ideas that they can still explore within those universes, um sure. I mean, I'm not going to pass judgment on something I haven't seen. I think the idea is certainly interesting. So, I mean, maybe I'll watch it when it comes out.
I think I feel more mixed about this. I think it's
Sure.
cool that Pixar is doing an original series that's called Win or Lose, which looks at a young baseball team. Um, Dream Productions. I can see this be more of like just a one-off little mini-series. If they
Sure.
decide that they can do it with multiple seasons, sure, I guess. I don't know how I feel about Moana 2. Sure, Moana was a great movie. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think it should have warrant a sequel. But we're getting it pretty soon. It comes out in a couple months.
Yeah. I guess my feeling about a lot of these is less mixed and more like indifferent.
Indifferent? Okay.
You know what I mean? It's
Right,
just like,
okay.
yeah, Moana's getting a sequel. That's cool. I mean, I just like I feel neither strongly negatively nor strongly positively about it. It's just like cool, a Moana sequel. Um, I know D23 like the movie announcements especially were comprised almost entirely of sequels.
Yeah.
And yeah, people rag on sequels and unoriginal, I guess not necessarily unoriginal ideas, but rather a lack of truly original IPs.
hmm
Um, but like it's like their bread and butter. It's their moneymaker. You know what I mean? A
Right.
movie that's as lucrative as like I don't know, Frozen, for example. And of course they're gonna make Frozen
Oh,
sequels.
I think we saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah,
Frozen,
like
Frozen 3. Oh, and also a Broadway musical that will be coming out next year as well. Based
for
on the first Frozen film.
oh well, I didn't hear about that, but again, kind of indifferent about it.
hmm
It's,
I think it's another that we kind of saw coming.
sure, yeah, good for Broadway, I guess. I mean, if people are Broadway fans, I've only been to one Broadway production because I've only been to New York one time in my life. But
What do you see? Because I've only seen one Broadway production too.
oh, I saw Hamilton.
Hamilton.
So
I saw Pippin.
oh, interesting.
hmm
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Frozen, a Broadway production of Frozen. Sure. You know what? Um, I didn't see it with the Broadway cast, but when they were touring it when I was 9 years old, I saw the theater production of The Lion King.
I did too.
Um, and that was awesome.
Yeah, I did too. Was that at the Straz Center?
I guess, yeah, the Performing Arts Center in downtown Tampa.
Yeah.
I was like 9, I
hmm
think, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
I think we saw it at the same time back because I think I was like 8 or 9 or 2 when I saw it.
I don't know if Disney has done more Broadway adaptations since, but I guess if the Frozen
Aladdin
one
comes
is
to mind.
okay,
I think Little Mermaid had one. Beauty and the Beast had a Broadway production too. So
okay,
really a lot of their Renaissance era animations
sure,
they brought to Broadway.
cool,
Pat, if you want something indifferent, I love the Toy Story movies. Toy Story 4 was a pleasant surprise in my book.
right.
I feel indifferent about Toy Story 5.
Like phones bad type stuff. Like the
Yeah.
child's like an iPad baby,
Yeah.
basically. Listen, I don't know. Like I find it interesting that they had a perfect stopping point twice, right? Because obviously everybody thinks Toy Story 3 is like the perfect ending and it's definitive and they shouldn't have um gone beyond that. And then they made Toy Story 4 and again, I think a lot of people try and discredit Toy Story 4 merely because it exists and they want to preserve that feeling they had of the original trilogy because I have to assume a lot of people saw Toy Story 3 when they were kids.
You're right.
Or at least, teenagers
Mhm.
and like that was like this sacred thing to them. And then the mere existence of Toy Story 4 is like an affront to them. But I actually found Toy Story 4 to be really enjoyable and again, I thought that ending was wonderfully cathartic.
Mhm.
And a good spot to end it. And now we're getting Toy Story 5. And we're going to be talking about iPad babies in this one, which is interesting, I guess. Like, am I still going to watch it? Probably, cuz I don't doubt that it's going to be good. You know what I mean? I guess like the question is ultimately is it necessary?
Mhm.
And no, obviously it's not.
No.
None of these are really necessary, you know what I mean?
Right.
But sometimes I feel like media or art rather doesn't need to be necessary to exist. Like you can just make something because you want to, not out of needing to.
Jumping from a Pixar sequel to now some Pixar original movies, one movie that they announced that will be coming out in 2016 is a film called Hoppers. Now, this is from the official Pixar website. The plot synopsis reads this. What if you could talk to animals and understand what they're saying? In Disney and Pixar's all-new feature film Hoppers, scientists have discovered how to hop human consciousness into lifelike robotic animals, allowing people to communicate with animals as animals. The adventure introduces Mabel, an animal lover who seizes an opportunity to use the technology, uncovering mysteries within the animal world that are beyond anything she could have imagined. The film opens exclusively in theaters in spring 2026.
Well, this is like the type of stuff that I feel like people want Pixar to do, right? They want Pixar to make like original stories and stop like churning out sequels, and yet the sentiment that I've seen on social media, which I know is not a gauge for how people are taking movies at large. I'm aware that the general audience, especially for Disney movies, does not exist on Twitter. It's like everybody's like, this sounds insane. This is way too out there. And it's like, what do you guys want? Do you want like original creative ideas such as, you know, implanting your consciousness into a robot beaver and learning about the secrets of the beaver kingdom? Or, you know, like they're giving you exactly what you ask for, and you're saying it's too out there. Like
those people that did say that had the same issue with Elemental. They wanted more original stuff, and they did and Pixar did Elemental, and fans said this is a bit much.
And then they were like, oh, it's too simple. It's too obviously an allegory for this, and this, and then like it underperformed like crazy in America, but then it made all of its money back plus extra overseas. So what the hell does social media know? You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
I understand.
You're literally asking them to make like different things and then prejudging it before you see it, and then like it's just like, well, this isn't what I meant. Like what do you mean? At least give it a shot.
There's one movie that I'm excited for Pixar. It's one of their films coming up next summer. It's called Elio. This is the plot synopsis. Elio, an underdog with an active imagination, finds himself inadvertently beamed up to the Communiverse, an interplanetary organization with representatives from galaxies far and wide. Mistakenly identified as Earth's ambassador to the rest of the universe, he starts to form new bonds with eccentric aliens while discovering who he's truly meant to be. I remember when this movie was announced, and it was just... There wasn't a lot of plot that came out for this movie at that time, but it was just known as Pixar's new sci-fi movie, and I'm honestly all for it after hearing this.
Sure. I have no reason to not go see it in theaters, right? Because I have AMC A-list, so it's like, what am I losing? So, yeah, I'll go see it. Why not?
Should I mention, the director is Adrian Molina, who screenwrote and co-directed Coco, and produced by Mary Alice Drum, who was the associate producer of Coco. So I think this film is already in good hands. Coco was an amazing movie. So I trust them taking on this sci-fi adventure film. And I really hope Elio gets the success that Strange World should have gotten.
Yeah.
So I'm already hearing that it's in the hands of the guys who did Coco. I'm all on board. And
sure.
And what's even better, the film stars America Ferrera.
Well, there you go.
And I guess Incredibles kind of counts as sci-fi too. And speaking of Incredibles 3 was
this
also
one
announced.
This one I'm actually excited about.
Oh, really?
Because Brad Bird is directing again, so we're so back. We're so back. As someone who likes Incredibles 2 way more than everybody else on social media for some reason.
Okay.
I am big hype for it. So this is the first one I don't feel like, yeah, all right about. This one I'm actually like, all right, my ass will be in the seat. Like, so
originally my reaction was a bit indifferent, but I'm gonna stay cautiously optimistic about it. This is the third one. Something that Brad Bird did say when he came back from Incredibles 2 was he wasn't ever going to make a sequel to Incredibles unless he had an idea. And that Incredibles came out like in 2004. We got a sequel 14 years later.
Yep.
So whatever Brad Bird has in store, I love the comments saying that. Well, I hope they allow Jack to grow up this time.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I want this one to actually have like a period of time to have passed, rather than 5 minutes.
How did you feel about the first Zootopia movie?
I think it's pretty good.
Pretty good? Okay.
Pretty good.
I thought Zootopia was a bit predictable in my book, but still, I think a fun ride.
Sure, I mean, I had fun watching it.
Yeah.
Like,
getting a Zootopia sequel in November 2025, and we have our first look. We have a concept art of all our characters in the shape of a 2. We're getting a Greatest Showman stage adaptation.
Whoa. Never been more apathetic about something in my life. I am a known disliker of The Greatest Showman.
I think it's safe to say with what we said with Frozen earlier, I think we saw this one coming.
Yeah.
I mean,
you had to know they were gonna do this. Like, it's not a surprise.
Pat, have you been keeping up with any of the Star Wars shows in the last year? I know I've been messaging you because I have fallen behind greatly.
Right.
And I am currently on the last season of Rebels, and I want to finish that before I jump into Ahsoka.
Sure.
But have you been keeping up?
Yeah, so I've watched pretty much everything. I haven't finished Bad Batch, but everything else that's come out, like Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, The Acolyte, Andor, like I've watched all of it. So
getting a new Star Wars show coming on Disney Plus this December called Skeleton Crew, in which they did release a trailer.
Watched it like one time when they first posted it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, looks good. I mean, you know, it's a good trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's your vibe?
When Ahsoka came out, I wanted to at least jump back into Clone Wars and finish that last season. Not just finish, but watch the last season. So I'm honestly just catching up with everything right now because I never saw Rebels during its initial run.
Right.
And with Ahsoka and some of these characters coming back from Rebels, I felt like it was appropriate to put that on hold and watch. I am currently on the last season, but I haven't really committed too much right now. But I know I'll finish it because I've heard so many great things about Ahsoka. I do know Hayden Christensen does come back again, and I thought he just nailed it with his return in Obi-Wan. We like that we are getting a Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
It's a terrible title, by the way. It should have just been called The Mandalorian and the Child. I realize they can't call it The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. but like they should have just called it The Mandalorian and the Child. I feel like especially the average consumer is not gonna know who Grogu is, and giving Grogu, you know, Baby Yoda, like an actual name immediately. Are you familiar with the Glup Shido meme?
The Glup Shido meme.
So it's a Tumblr post from like 5 or 6 years ago, where it's just like Star Wars fans will see a character you've never heard of and be like, "Oh my God, Glup Shido is back," and be like really excited because like like every like Star Wars character outside of like the core cast just sounds like somebody you made up. So like Glup Shido is just like a funny like fake name for like a character nobody else has ever heard of.
I have heard of this. I haven't even thought about this. I think since Rise of Skywalker, because I know around that time that's when the meme was like pretty big.
Yeah. I just wish it had been called The Mandalorian and the Child. That's such a better name than The Mandalorian and Grogu. Because like Grogu immediately puts him into Glup Shido territory for like the average person, right? I wish they had just never given him like a Star Wars name. But hey, it is what it is. Maybe it'll be a good movie. I do notice that the fucking spaceship that the Mandalorian had that blew up, literally blew up, and he had a whole arc about making a new one or getting a new one. The one that blew up is inexplicably back now for some reason.
I'm gonna kind of breeze through these few announcements. There is a Freaky Friday sequel coming out, Freakier Friday, that will bring back Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan, which I'm honestly surprised to see Lindsay Lohan coming back out of all people.
Sure.
There is going to be a Hercules show coming to London, and it's another stage adaptation of Hercules. I don't know if you've watched the Percy Jackson show on Disney Plus, Pat. I haven't, but
I have,
did.
Yes.
So how is that? Because they just announced a season 2 during D23.
Oh, I'm very happy about it. It's a great show. Much better than the movies. So, I've been a fan of the Percy Jackson books since I was in like 4th grade. I think is when I read The Lightning Thief for the first time. So, I mean, yeah. The show's fantastic. So, I'm glad we're getting a second season.
We got some new live-action adaptations. One of them being a prequel to the oh-so-beloved Lion King.
Right. Yeah. So, Mufasa. So this is
Let me go first, Pat, because
sure.
We talked about how unnecessary some stuff is. Mufasa is probably the most unnecessary just thing to ever come out.
It is really funny that you mentioned that this is the most unnecessary thing I've ever seen, because I went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine, and they showed the Mufasa trailer beforehand, and when the trailer says like Disney presents, and I was with my sister and my friend, and I like mockingly went, Disney presents unnecessary. Like that's exactly what I said. I was like, Disney presents unnecessary. To talk about unnecessary, let's make an iconic movie, like a beloved classic, stands tall amongst the rest of the golden age category of Disney, but worse.
It does baffle my mind how Jon Favreau, who did the Jungle Book live action, which honestly I think
is
to this
great.
day is still their best live action adaptation, went ahead and did that. What was there to change for Lion King to begin with?
As visually impressive as the renditions of the animals are, making them so realistic robs them of their ability to emote.
If I remember, concept art got leaked that showed originally what they wanted to do with the animals, and it was pretty close with what we got in the animated movie, but it was just that, but more so live action.
Right.
Maybe that was all fake. Maybe that was just a concept art that a fan made. But I remember looking at that and I said, "Yo, that actually looks a lot better."
It just like the easiest comparison to make is like, look at the frame in which Simba reacts to Mufasa falling off the cliff like look at the frame in which he reacts to that in the original movie, and then look at the frame in which he reacts to that in the live-action remake. It is like there's no emotion at all in the live-action remake because he's a real-ass lion who can't make exaggerated faces for the sake of telling a story. So it just feels boring and lifeless, as good as the voice cast is. I mean, you know, I'll give credit where it's due. I think the voice cast in the live action Lion King is really good.
Mm-hmm.
But it just doesn't do it for me. We have the live action Jungle Book, but the live action Jungle Book works, one, because we have a human character to attach ourselves to.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately it's more relatable because we have a human character, but also like a decent chunk of the core cast, or at least one of the main characters in the Jungle Book remake, is a monkey who has, you know, an expressive face in and of itself. Anyway, Mufasa looks really unnecessary, and I'm probably not going to watch it.
That's the same. And
So.
you know what's another movie I'm probably not going to watch, Patrick? The live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch.
Okay, so this one, I don't think it needs to be a thing strictly on principle, but I actually think they nailed the way Stitch looks. I think his live action design is great, but I also don't think this movie, like, yeah, I would prefer that it didn't exist, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, but my problem with this live action Lilo and Stitch is the same problem I have with their announcement that Disney made with the live action Moana movie that was supposed to get two. First of all, it's too soon.
Right.
Lilo and Stitch. Yeah, it's about 10 years old, I think, by this point.
Lilo and Stitch. Thomas, Lilo and Stitch is 23 years
20?
old.
Oh my god.
They had to re-edit the movie because of a scene being too similar to 9/11.
Oh my god, it is 20 years old. Why did I say 10?
It's 22 years old,
God,
man.
I'm old. Please.
It's.
I apologize, Pat.
I think it's only. Let's see. When did Lion King come out?
94, I believe.
Right, and then the live-action remake was what, 2019?
2019, yes.
2019. Let's see. So 94 to 2019 is what, 25 years? I mean, it's only a few years off from when the live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch would come out, theoretically.
I do apologize for that, by the way. Man, I sound...
Nah, it's all good.
I know I made some stupid comments during the show before. Man, wow, how times have changed. Not really.
Nah, it's all good, man. I was just like, when you said 10 years old, I was like, brother. It's just, again, I would prefer that it maybe didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But at least Stitch looks really good. And this also sort of, it alleviates my problem with the Lion King live action remake, because Stitch is not a real creature. So Stitch can be presented in live action while still being really expressive and crazy because he's an alien. He's not bound by the traditional, you know, laws of the land, rather. Kind of like Pete's Dragon.
What story can they really tell with another with the remake of Lilo and Stitch in general?
Sure.
I feel like the movie we got was perfect. Why does it need a remake in the first place?
To be fair, and I'm just I don't usually play devil's advocate, but like Stitch is criminally underutilized as a property by Disney. I mean, he had the movie, which was over 20 years ago at this point. And then he had like
10 years, Pat.
Yeah, of course, 10 years. And he's had a Disney Channel exclusive animated series.
Which I watched the hell out of that as a kid.
which that ran for like 2 years. And other than that, there is literally zero Stitch media. Like the Lilo and Stitch ride or experience at Magic Kingdom doesn't even exist anymore. So if this is Disney's idea for like re-injecting Stitch into the modern audience, because let's be honest, these live action movies make shitloads of money. I mean, The Lion King made $1 billion. So like, if this is how they want to do it, I guess I can't blame them. Because like they have to know it'll probably be profitable as a baseline. And they literally have not done anything meaningful with Stitch for like 20 years. So I guess from that perspective, this makes sense.
Here's a hot take, Pat, and I might get hate for this. I don't think they really need to do much with Stitch.
I mean, because you're not wrong.
Because, like you said, the last thing we really got was the TV show. We actually did get a new Lilo and Stitch show, I think like back in 2016, 2017. That was in the style of an anime that played on Disney XD that was just called Stitch.
Holy crap, this was aired in 2008 in Japan?
Whoa.
That's crazy, bro. This was an actual, like, made-for-Japan TV show that aired originally in Japan in 2008, and with the final episode date being August 7th, 2015, presumably for the American run. Yeah, it only ran for 26 episodes originally. That's crazy, man.
Wow.
My point being, Disney hasn't really been doing much with Stitch. It's weird to have a property that you're just like not doing anything with that's been dormant for like that long.
Mm-hmm. Pal, let's jump into some of the theme park news that Disney announced. Disney California will be getting the World of Pandora that we have here in Orlando, which I think is much overdue. I honestly thought that they did open one in Disney California, but no, they're going to be getting one in the next couple of years. And this one will be inspired more from the Way of Water.
Okay. Interesting. Well, good for California Adventure, I guess.
Oh, good for California indeed, because they'll also be getting an attraction based on Coco. No plot details have really come out. If you just see the teaser that they have, just says new Coco ride coming to Disney California Adventure. That's really it. So this one will be coming to Disneyland in Paris. A Lion King attraction.
Interesting.
Which, from the concept art, does Disneyland Paris still have their Splash Mountain ride, like just the way we had it before before Tiana's Bayou Adventure? Because the concept art looks like it is Splash Mountain, but just rethemed as Pride Rock.
I don't know. I don't really know much about Disneyland Paris.
Okay. The resemblance is there. But I think that's kind of cool. And unfortunately, this is more inspired by the live action movie. And I can only tell this by two characters. It's by how Timon and Pumbaa look in this concept art.
Yeah.
Honestly, good for Paris, I guess.
Good for Paris.
Here's something that I'm really interested that Disneyland in California is going to be getting: a Walt Disney audio animatronic show coming to their park. It'll be in the same venue as where Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln is. It'll just be in rotation about every couple hours.
Okay.
And honestly, I think something just Walt Disney himself related has been much overdue with any of just anything Disney in general. They haven't really done anything. Like the last thing they did with just Walt himself was the short film they released last year that celebrated the 100th anniversary of Disney Studios, where they did a little cute throwback with Mickey Mouse looking at Walt. But other than that, I think something like this is much overdue. And if I'm going to be honest, if this works out, I can see the carousel of progress that we have here in Orlando get replaced with a Walt Disney show in that venue. Coming
Sounds
to
pretty cool.
coming to Disney's Animal Kingdom, we're getting an Encanto themed ride. No details have really come out. All we know is that we're just going to be getting that here in Orlando, which I'm honestly surprised. I really thought an Encanto ride would have fit more somewhere in Epcot.
Well, what they're doing is they're replacing Dinosaur Land entirely with a Tropical Americas area.
That's right. I was actually going to bring that up with the Indiana Jones ride, but I forgot that's also where the Encanto ride is going to go too.
Right. Yeah, so Encanto's going in Tropical Americas with the Indiana Jones ride. By the way, the Indiana Jones ride is replacing Dinosaur, obviously. Sad to see it go, but if this Indiana Jones ride is in fact the same one that's at Tokyo Disney Sea,
ooh,
brother, I'm there. I went to Japan just a couple months ago. I went to Tokyo Disney Sea and I rode the Indiana Jones ride there. It's more or less the same track layout as Dinosaur, which leads me to believe that this will be the same ride.
From what I understand, this new Indiana Jones ride is going to be a new original ride that hasn't been seen at any of the other parks.
Interesting. Okay.
Honestly, another thing I feel different about Indiana Jones, the Indiana Jones ride.
All right, listen.
Go for it, Pat.
I need you to understand.
Okay.
If this is indeed the same ride, or if it's at all inspired by, because again, the track layout at the one at Tokyo Disney Sea is very similar to Dinosaur.
Right.
If it's the same ride, you are in for a treat. It is.
I think I feel more.
It is hands down one of the best theme park rides I've ever been on.
I think I just feel more indifferent because I haven't really seen anyone care about Indiana Jones for for forever.
Well, sure, me too. I mean, outside of the original trilogy, I don't, really care that much about Indiana Jones either. But that didn't stop that ride from being a banger.
Sure.
It's so good.
Sure.
I'm interested to see what they cook up.
Yeah, I guess I'll just have to wait and see, really.
But also, rest in peace, Dinosaur Land. Dinosaur was one of my favorite rides, and I'm sad to see it go. I realize it was showing its age, but I mean.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, the hot take. I think just Dinosaur Land in general is just outdated, and it does kind of need to go.
Sure. I mean, but then also some rides I think are just timeless classics. I mean, I don't think it's an unfair assessment to say that rides like Pirates of the Caribbean are, quote unquote outdated.
Outdated, yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, that's kind of part of the appeal or the magic.
I mean, to be fair, this was more based off of that forgettable dinosaur movie that Disney did back in 2000, 2001. I haven't really, besides just some people on YouTube talking about it, be like, hey, do you remember when Disney made this? Yeah. I haven't really seen anyone talk about the movie, and I know that there's some cases I should kind of just have the movie and the parks kind of be separate, but this was based off of their movie back in that time,
right?
And I just haven't I haven't really seen anyone even talk about that movie in.
God, I saw that movie in theaters.
Me too, Pat.
Crazy.
What about something that another classic that has shown its age and is going to go away? I loved this show as a kid. It's Tough to Be a Bug. We'll be getting replaced by a show from Zootopia called Better Together.
Yeah, sure, why not?
I think it's cool that they're still going to keep Because I remember when I first heard rumors about Disney wanting to replace the show, I remember my first thought was, are they going to get rid of the tree? Because that's like a landmark. Thankfully, the tree will still be there. Just the show is going to be changed, and I I think it's safe to say that's a good thing because I don't think anyone has forgiven Disney for getting rid of the Sorcerer's Hat at Hollywood Studios when they rebranded from MGM to Hollywood Studios.
Yeah.
I still haven't forgiven them that. I went to MGM Studios one time before they rebranded, and I remember I didn't even, because I mean, to be fair, that Sorcerer's Hat was more of a gift shop, but it was just so cool just as a kid to see.
Yeah, I mean, it was
that
a cool
giant
landmark.
thing, and that was a landmark. The landmark that they have is still the Chinese theater. It's not as it's the Chinese theater though. You can go to California and see the real one.
Right.
But I'll see how the Zootopia show goes. Again, I'm glad they're not getting rid of the landmark though. Another thing that we will be getting in our park here in Orlando, a Monsters Incorporated land that will include a roller coaster ride based off of the doors from the movie. Now here's something that's been long overdue.
Yeah, it's Disney's first inverted coaster too, which is pretty cool. Inverted coasters are fun. Yeah, of course I'll eventually get to the park and ride this. I mean, again, Monsters Inc., somewhat of an underutilized property, I think. I know we got Monsters University.
And we do have the Disney Plus show as well, which has some, I've seen the show, it has some good episodes.
Right. I haven't watched it, so maybe I'll get around to it, I guess.
I forgot who plays Mike Wazowski, but that voice actor and John Goodman come back to play their roles in the show.
Billy Crystal.
Billy Crystal, yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Rumor has it that it is that attraction is going to replace Muppet Vision. To be fair, I don't really see Muppet Vision going away anytime soon. In fact, if you want something that's been underutilized, it's the Muppets. I want Muppet Vision to still stay because I love the Muppets, Pat. I don't know if you've watched the Jim Henson documentary that Disney Plus released a few months ago. It's a really good documentary. Talks about the life and success that Jim Henson has had. If I'm going to be honest, I can see this fit more somewhere near Toy Story Land.
I could see that, yeah.
I think another rumor has it is that if it doesn't replace Muppet Vision, it's going to replace the Star Wars launch bay that's on the other side of the park. Which I can see that too. I mean, they have Galaxy's Edge now. I think they can get rid of the Star Wars launch bay for Monsters Inc.
Well, I don't know. They'll probably just expand it because they have a lot of unused property.
So. Oh yeah, yeah. If I recall, Hollywood Studios is their smaller park, right? That might have changed with Galaxy's Edge, but I think it's still stands as a smaller park?
It definitely still feels like the smallest park of the four. Definitely. To be honest, that's partly why I like it. It's really easy to go to Hollywood Studios, do all of the things that you want to do, and then leave and still have time to do other things. We're getting Cars rides, aren't we? In Magic Kingdom?
Yes. Speaking of expansions, Frontierland and Magic Kingdom will be getting a Cars expansion. This will be similar to what Disney California has. I remember there were rumors long ago that the racetrack that's at Tomorrowland, that was going to get replaced by a Cars attraction. But we're finally going to be getting it here in Orlando. And from what I experienced in California, I thought it was a very cute addition. I can see this work out, especially in the Frontierland area. Disney announced 4 cruise lines. I know there's some Disney villains arriving in Fortnite, whatever. No big details have come to what's happening over at Disneyland with their Marvel expansion, but they did announce that the Avengers Campus will expand with 2 new attractions. But Pat, here's something that I know that we are both excited. I think this is honestly Disney's answer to Dark Universe that we'll be getting at Epic Universe and Universal. We're getting a Villains Land coming to Magic Kingdom with 2 major attractions.
Yeah, pretty cool. This is the most interesting thing to me, is the Villains Land at Magic Kingdom. They need to do more with their villains.
Yes, they do.
I know they have like a villains takeover type thing for Halloween and all that, but they need to do more with just villains.
And I remember this was rumored so long ago, and I would have loved this too, and I'm glad we're finally. Here's another thing that's been long overdue: a villains attraction, and I'm glad they're finally doing it.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't think there's a date set yet, but man, if there's one thing I'm gonna follow closely with, honestly, with all these announcements in general, it's definitely the Villains Land.
Yeah, this is the one that's actually interesting to me. I mean, the Indiana Jones ride is super sick too.
I think that about does it with all the announcements.
Finally.
Here's a hot take, Pat. I think we got too much with very little time. Because a lot of these announcements, mostly coming with their theme parks, there's really no set date on when this stuff will open. And I know it's going to take its time, but my belief is that if Disney just started just construction and then maybe announced it later, I think I would have been more okay with it. Again, Villains Attraction, I'm looking forward to. Monsters Inc., long overdue. Well, let's do it. But I wouldn't mind if we waited just a little longer. And one thing I really wanted to say, this is mostly with Pixar. Sure, Incredibles 3, some of the original stuff. Pat, I remember a time when Pixar would just announce one movie a year. And to be fair, I kind of miss that. That might sound unfair in a way, because I know times can change. I get it. But I think with all these announcements, just overall, even with the hardcore Disney fan, a lot of this just seems overwhelming.
I think it's also just like, this is a type of event that's meant to get the press talking and for big time like Disney diehards to tune into.
Right. Which I understand. That's same thing goes for anything related to this, like Comic-Con or
I mean,
just anything in like that industry, if that makes sense.
Yeah, your average Disney fan or like your average person who goes to the parks once every few years when they can afford it probably hasn't heard about 80% of this stuff. Nor does it interest them that much, because they don't go that often. So, but it's definitely a lot.
All right, Pat, let's go ahead and move on from all the D23. Let's get into some reviews. Pat, what do you want to review?
Let's start with the one that I know we both played. We both played the new Destiny expansion, The Final Shape. So I actually also reviewed this on my backlog. I just hadn't sent the link yet. It's interesting. I'll just read might be easier if I just read like the first like little excerpt from it.
Go for it.
But all right, so it's something of a running joke in the Destiny community that Bungie always delivers their best content when Destiny is in dire straits. They gave us the Taken King after the first year of Destiny was a bit middling. When the first year of Destiny 2 nearly sank the franchise, Bungie came screaming back with Forsaken, which many consider to be the best expansion the series has ever seen. The Witch Queen was a much-needed shot in the arm following its delay, presenting a step-up in campaign design and narrative that players had been begging for. And then Lightfall happened. Look, the misfire of Lightfall, the internal turmoil at Bungie that followed, an absolutely brutal state-of-the-game article, and the frankly harsh blow that those things combined dealt to the Destiny community has been discussed to death at this point, but it also can't be overstated. Players were burnt out, disappointed, and leaving the game. In the interim, Bungie delayed the release of Final Shape for a few months. A well-received free content update and the typical hype cycle for the next expansion filled that void, but the community was, understandably, skeptical. Lightfall had brought the game and community sentiment to the lowest it had ever been. So, with their backs against the wall, and Destiny once again facing a make-or-break moment, did they do it? Did Bungie deliver? Yeah, they did. The Final Shape, for my money, is the best expansion Destiny has ever seen. A gripping and personal story, top-notch environmental design, and the new prismatic subclass are just a few highlights. The first half of the campaign is a bit slow, but from the 5th mission on, Bungie puts the pedal to the floor and doesn't let up until the credits roll. Strong encounter design and mechanics which are more involved than a typical Destiny campaign kept me thoroughly engaged for my entire Solo Legend playthrough. So that's basically just like the first like half of the review.
Whew.
With some like much needed context for why the Final Shape was like so important.
Yeah.
Because this was the most make or break moment the franchise had probably ever seen. It's not an exaggeration to say that Lightfall literally brought this game to its knees. So, yeah, this is a banger expansion.
I came back into Destiny 2 about a year and a half ago. By this point, Beyond Light and Witch Queen have already been out.
Yeah, Lightfall would have been out by then too.
Mm-hmm.
Or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Or getting close anyway.
And prior to that, my last time playing Destiny 2 was Destiny Vanilla. I did not. I probably played I don't even remember if I did, but I probably played the little expansions that came out before Forsaken.
Right.
Yeah, I just dropped off right before Forsaken came out.
Listen, you're forgiven for that. Year 1 of Destiny 2 was not very good. Curse of Osiris. Ooh, Curse of Osiris still makes me mad. But hey, it is what it is.
Right.
We're still here. The Final Shape is the culmination of 10 years of Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is the finale of the light and dark saga of Destiny.
I'm going to say this for someone like me that skipped out on a lot, Final Shape was tremendous.
This is a banger expansion. You get so much more out of it if you've been here since the beginning, of course, and I really feel for players who are trying to jump into the game like right now, because I'll admit it, Destiny 2's new player experience, bad. It's real bad. It's like this insurmountable wall to try and get over, and you have basically no context for anything because they retroactively remove the majority of the story content when a new expansion comes out. So I get it. But as someone who has been playing Destiny since the Destiny 1 private alpha that I was invited to play in by Bungie, this hit way different, bro. This hit way, way, way different. And it felt validating, and I'm sincerely happy that Bungie was able to deliver an incredible finale to a story that has been running for this long. I say a little bit later in the review that wrapping up a story that's gone on for this long, that people are disinvested in, and doing it well enough that everyone is satisfied is basically impossible. It's like a Herculean feat. Like very few series in media even get the chance to try and conclude a 10-year story and even fewer managed to succeed in that. And they did it. They did it. I mean, it's, Final Shape's campaign is truly amazing with excellent environmental design, good encounter design, fantastic writing for all of its characters. We got Cade back, and Cade is voiced by Nathan Fillion again, which is pretty awesome.
Yes. I want to talk about that real quick. So if I recall, Forsaken was the expansion where Cade does die.
Yes, that is the plot of Forsaken.
Mm-hmm.
Cade is killed immediately in the first cutscene, and that's the plot. The plot is getting revenge.
I love what Bungie did just right before Final Shape came out, where you got to replace some of that story,
right? The timeline reflection,
and still get caught up with Final Shape.
Right.
Someone like me that skipped out on Forsaken, I thought they weren't going to do that. My buddy Austin had to catch me up on so much that I missed prior to Beyond Light. I got into Beyond Light in Witch Queen, enjoyed it. This is a funny story, Pat. You'll get a kick out of this. I bought Lightfall, and I forgot I bought it till I forgot I bought it back in December, up until just a few months ago when I moved in with Rennie.
Yeah. So.
Listen, when I saw I got the
yeah, you were probably mad confused.
Yes. Yes. So during the time of Lightfall, that's when my buddy Austin was catching me up on so much that I missed prior to Beyond Light. He showed me the Curse of Osiris, showed me the Fate of Kate, showed me how the Witch Queen came to be before that DLC came out.
Yep.
So it was really cool to do that, but when Bungie started doing this whole timeline thing where you can replay some of the stories.
Yeah, it's cool that you can play the first mission of the Forsaken campaign now.
Mm-hmm.
If you want my opinion, I think they should just put the Forsaken campaign back in the game, because you currently can't play it. You also can't play the campaign that literally launched with Destiny 2. Like, the Red War campaign is also
Pat,
not in the game
you want
anymore.
something that was mad confusing. When I first got back into Destiny 2, I bought it off of Steam, got into it, and I'm playing the first level in Destiny 1. I said, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, they brought back the Cosmodrome as like the new player experience. So, but the actual first campaign, the whole first 2 years of content from Destiny 2, basically, all of the year 1 content and its campaigns, and also the Forsaken campaign and its locations, are just not in the game anymore. Because they threw them in the Destiny content vault right after, like, with the launch of Beyond Light. And listen, Destiny content vault, it's not good. It's not good. Even people who have never played Destiny 2 know what the Destiny content vault is. Destiny 2 lives inside, like, in outside circles as the game that took away a bunch of content you paid for. So, I get it, man. And, God, yeah, I mean, people trying to get into Destiny 2 today literally have to go to outside sources to understand 23 seasons worth of story.
Oh my God.
Because there were 23 seasons, and none of them are in the game anymore. Now, I don't necessarily mind that they're not in the game anymore, because to me, what would be the more daunting thing? Watching, an hour or 2 or 3 of YouTube videos and then starting the game, or booting up the game and immediately having to play through 23 seasons or 7 years worth of story content, because that's not even counting the expansion campaigns and stuff like that. You're really gonna tell somebody to get into Destiny 2 and have them play 23 seasons worth of content? These seasons are long, dude. Like, the stories are spaced out in such a way that you play them over a period of 3 months. So it would be such a grind to get new players into the game. Like there's no perfect solution for getting new players into Destiny, right? I think the only realistically, if they want to get new people into the game, the only thing they can do is they need to completely restructure the new player experience, and they need to relaunch Destiny 2 as just Destiny. They need to take the number out of the title, they need to completely redo the new player experience, and they need to just continue the series with one game called Destiny that evolves over the next few years. Because if you make Destiny 3, people are still going to assume that it's not a good place to start. Even if it's like a complete total reset, people will see the 3 in the name and not think it's a good place to start. And then also, with the 2 still in the name, literally everybody still knows Destiny 2 for the content vault.
Right.
So, like, you just have, like, these little implications. So, if they could completely redo the new player experience, drop the 2, and just make it Destiny going forward, it'd probably be fine. Anyway, Final Shape was amazing. So good, man.
You know, just talking about what you've clearly have said, Bungie has had a bumpy road with this game.
Oh my god,
this whole
so
thing
crazy.
Entirely. And
it's been so crazy.
There's been great moments. It's had its lowest of lows, but man, Final Shape was just a great way to end everything. And also, I think Final Shape is a great way to celebrate how far Bungie has come with this game. No matter what anyone has thought about it, like it's
a celebration of the entire franchise, and it's a perfect bow on the end of this saga. And yeah, we're still getting new story and stuff beyond this point. Like, this franchise is not over. But if people use this as the time to jump off of the franchise for good, I can't blame them. This is as good of a conclusion to somebody's time with the game as it is just this story. Yeah, so I don't know. This is venturing a little into spoilers territory, but after the world's first clear at the Salvation's Edge raid, Bungie unlocked the first ever 12-player activity in Destiny called Excision. And Excision is the true final mission of the Final Shape campaign, where you come in with 11 other players, and it's one last push against the forces of the Witness to bring an end to this epic conflict once and for all. And I gotta tell you, man, Excision and the cutscenes accompanying it really made me emotional. Like, I started Destiny 10 years ago playing it with my dad, and I ended this saga of Destiny playing it with my dad. And I was very emotional. So you can't, like, you can never undersell the way something makes you feel. You know what I mean? Like, I could be more objective about it, sure. But at the end of the day, Final Shape made me feel like genuine, like, raw emotions. And it's so good. To say nothing of the post-game content or anything like that, this is exactly what Bungie needed to deliver, and the delay was well worth it. So, yeah, I'm not going to say it's easy to get into Destiny 2, but if anybody here is hesitant to get into Destiny 2, it's, give it a shot. Wait until the DLCs are on sale, though. There's a lot of them.
Jump into a movie that we saw together. Opening weekend, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes, we saw this opening night, actually. Opening night IMAX for this movie. Great movie. This is perhaps the most consistent modern sci-fi franchise. All of these movies are good.
And I think that's really good. I think that is surprising to say, because I think personally, I really thought that the ending would be with war, but when they announced that they were going to be making more, I said, you know what, go for it. I had to figure they were going to make a new trilogy. Yeah. And there's something that I really want to say about this new movie. What you brought up, Pat, how consistent it has stayed even after Caesar's story.
Right.
This whole overarching theme of leadership and home, that message has been, I think, more present in this movie than I think it ever has in the previous trilogy. Not,
This one hits. I like the new cast of characters a lot. It's hard to live up to Caesar as a character, but I don't. The fact that they opted to make this like literally generations later, is
300 years
is cool. Like I like that because it lets the new cast just shine by themselves. Most of them don't even know who Caesar was. So like he's just like a mythological figure at this point.
And that's another reason why I love this movie. The whole theme for the original trilogy was to show humanity's idiocracy be their downfall, and that's how the apes came to be. And in this case, because it's generations later, having Caesar's story kind of be twisted with all these other apes, which I think can be said with honestly any religion ever.
Oh well, yeah, of course.
It just shows that these apes now are no different than humans. I really believe, Pat, that we're going to be seeing the downfall of the ape society sometime later in this.
Well, this is
new
definitely
trilogy.
It definitely feels like it's working not backwards, but it's moving in like the opposite direction of the original movies, right?
Yeah.
Because the original movies take place really, really far in the future, and you find out, of course, that there are lost like space, there are lost astronauts and all that stuff, and this isn't another planet. This is Earth or whatever. So I feel like we're definitely getting to the point where the original series started.
Yeah.
I liked this one a lot. It's not my favorite of the four. It's definitely very good. It's got great drama, really good characters. It's a little light on action set pieces, but the ones that are there are great. Love the whole climax of them breaking into the bunker and needing to flood it so that they can't get all the human weaponry inside and all. Like it's really cool. It's compelling stuff. I'm excited for the next ones because obviously we're gonna get more because this is a very profitable movie. Speaking of profitable movies, how about the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, Deadpool Wolverine?
When it was announced that Hugh Jackman was going to come back as Wolverine, everybody was excited. Also a little confused just because of what happened with Logan at the end of his final movie. I thought how they handled it, first of all, was honestly hilarious, and I don't think they could have done it any other way. This being Deadpool, of course. And what's great is that I haven't really seen any criticism saying that they disrespected what they did in Logan. Because to be honest, I don't think they really needed to. It's Deadpool being Deadpool. What else could have happened?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was really cool that it was the TVA that introduces Deadpool into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think for those that haven't seen the TV show will be a little confused on what the TVA is if they haven't really seen, really more importantly, Loki. But even then, I think this is a movie that honestly just works well by itself.
This is a lot of fun. It's just fun. It's dumb, stupid fun. And actually, what I wasn't anticipating is this movie actually has a lot of heart, and it has a solid emotional core that's kind of like anchored by this surprising amount of reverence for like a bygone era of superhero movie. Because it's not just Deadpool getting a third movie and bringing back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. It's also like shockingly a proper send off to some other iconic like comic book movie characters
that we haven't seen in a
who never
long time.
Who never got that chance.
Yeah.
I mean, Wesley Snipes is spoilers. Wesley Snipes is back as Blade. You know, Jennifer Garner's back as Elektra. They gave Channing Tatum the ultimate wish fulfillment of finally being able to properly play Garrett after dude has basically been begging on his hands and knees for over 10 years to play this character. They brought back Laura from Logan, and it's cool. And like, there's a whole bunch of just like random like background characters, like, you know, like they brought back the original Juggernaut from the original, you know, X-Men trilogy. Psylocke's back there. Azazel's back there. Obviously, Chris Evans is back, not as Captain America, but as the Human Torch. It's just interesting that this first, I didn't have any of this spoiled because I saw it on opening night. So this was like a genuine shock to me. And it was so much fun. As soon as I saw the playing card fly off screen, I was like, they didn't. And then Channing Tatum walks in. I'm like, they did. I couldn't believe it. Super, super fun movie. Absolute gore fest. Insanely violent movie. This is debatably the most violent Deadpool movie by a considerable margin. So there are some.
I wholeheartedly agree. Yes,
there are some truly bloody fight scenes in this movie. Like this movie's an actual splatter fest.
Coming back to what you said, Pat, about how much heart this movie impressively has. I think it's safe to say that the Deadpool movies have been very consistent with that. You know, just looking back with what we got with the first Deadpool movie, with him getting cancer, him hopefully getting cured with this organization that essentially leads him to being Deadpool. At the same time, you know, he has to leave his girl because he doesn't want her to see him like that. All the while giving us a funny movie along the way. And then in Deadpool 2, when his girl dies and he wants to help this kid that Cable's going after, and now in Deadpool 3, where he wants to defy what the TVA is telling him just to save his only friends that he has.
Yeah.
And just how consistent they have. I honestly was going to come in and think, okay, you know what? This is Disney. We're going to get some comedy. I was impressed with how much heart we got, and I'm glad Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds decided to stay with that consistency. Bring back Record Shop for a little bit.
Oh, God. There's been a lot of good music coming out lately. I don't know that I have anything I want to specifically review at the moment, because I would need to, like, really compile my thoughts.
Right.
Like, I already know what my album of the year is. Like, Darko by Starfire, or Starfire by Darko is my album of the year without question. I don't think anything can dethrone that.
Mm-hmm.
But as for the rest of the top 10, we'll see. I usually make the list around, like, the middle of December. So,
okay.
I'm sure more albums will go up by then. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about or bring up?
Ooh.
Like, any special mentions?
Cobra Kai. Its new
season. Oh, yes.
Its new season came out just a few weeks ago. So what they're doing, they're releasing this final season into 3 parts. We got 5 episodes a few weeks. We're getting 5 new episodes in November, and then sometime in early 2025 will be its last 5.
Mm-hmm.
And what a ride we have come to, Pat. Have you seen any of Cobra Kai? I know we've talked about it on the show before.
I've not watched a single episode, bro. Not a single one.
I have, not just me, but anyone who's been into Cobra Kai will say the first half of season 1 is a little it's a little rough. It's a little cheesy for what it is. But once you get through that first half, the show picks up and it just stays consistent through its whole run. And I think this first part of season 5 has got to be the most emotional I think I've ever seen the show take. And this show has had its emotional moments. There's a character named Tori who goes just through some shit at the end of part 1, and you can't help but to feel for her, especially for those that have followed her since her introduction in season 2 of who she was to where she is now, where she has her enemies have turned friends for her. People that have reviewed the show do say that this first part, it does have a slow burn, and honestly, I don't think it ruins anything at all. I think it's a nice change of pace from where everybody was last season with Terry Silver coming back from Karate Kid 3. There's peacetime in the valley now. The enemies have turned friends.
Mm-hmm.
There is some evil happening behind the scenes. That's core. It's just to show that there's finally peace in the valley, and I think this slow burn is just a nice change of pace overall for this first part, especially to where we're going to be at now. We're finally at the Taikai Saikai, which is this world tournament of karate. They teased that last season. We're finally there, and with this plot twist that has happened with Tori, and with what happens,
right,
I am excited to see where this next part goes.
We're gonna do it eventually, but
I'm very curious to see what's going to happen after Cobra Kai ends, because we are getting a new Karate Kid movie with Ralph Macchio coming back once again, but also Jackie Chan's going to be coming back as his character, Mr. Han, from the Jaden Smith movie.
Right.
But if they bring back the same cast and crew with Cobra Kai, I can see this work out. I mentioned this all started with a College Humor skit back in the late 2000s. So just to see how far the show has come with just that one skit.
Yeah.
This is a show that shouldn't have worked out, but it does. It's the respect that the original Karate Kid movie, I think, deserves. If anyone wants to know what Patrick's reviews are on any other video games, you can follow him on his backlog. He did send me a link to a couple of games that he was writing right before we started this episode. So if anybody wants to know what his thoughts are on any other games, follow his backlog. Where can they find you on Backlog, to Pat?
You can find me on Backlogged at Black Star Raider. That is my Backlogged account name. One word. You want to find me on Instagram? It's Pattywise the Clown.
You can find me at Tommy.Zami on Instagram. Pat, this was a nice reintroduction back into the show.
Yeah, this is fun.
I'm excited to do this again, and whenever we decide to do this show again, let's talk next time, Pat. Let's talk about what Paramount did with their television studio. They closed down their television studio. So, but
I saw that.
Let's dive into that next time, and also let's also talk about the Kraven movie trailer that Sony released today.
I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't watched it yet either, so I think that is something that we can talk about next time. But until then, party on, partiers.